precision delivery of medicine. Entertainment franchise games absolutely exploding. Small modular reactors and the nuclear renaissance, plus AI moving into very complex workflows. Now, these were just a few of the major tech innovations that partners at A16Z predicted last year. And our partners are back, and we just dropped our list of over 40 plus big ideas for 2024, a compilation of critical advancements across all our verticals, from smart energy grids to crime-detecting computer vision, to democratizing miracle drugs like GLP-1s, or even AI moving from black box to clear box. You can find the full list of 40 plus builder-worthy pursuits at a16z.com/bigideas2024, or you can click the link in our description below. But on deck today, you will hear directly from one of our partners as we dive even more deeply into their big idea. What's the why now? What opportunities and what challenges are on the horizon? And how can you get involved? Let's dive in. As a reminder, the content here is for informational purposes only, should not be taken as legal, business, tax, or investment advice, or be used to evaluate any investment or security, and is not directed at any investors or potential investors in any A16Z fund. Please note that A16Z and its affiliates may also maintain investments in the companies discussed in this podcast. For more details, including a link to our investments, please see a16z.com/disclosures.
Hi, I'm Alex Immerman, partner on our growth fund here at A16Z. And my big idea for 2024 is the Consumer AI Battleground is going to move from the model to UX. Overheard in 2023, a minute not spent building the model is a minute wasted. Build the best model and the users will come. The most popular consumer AI companies thus far have been the producers of their own models, such as ChatGPT, Character, Bard, and Midjourney. Differentiation has come from being the best model in their domain. Midjourney with images, Character on entertainment, ChatGPT on overall text. UX has largely been determined by the fastest way to get the models in the hands of users. But thanks to a combination of factors, the likelihood that chip shortages ease, the availability of most foundation models via API, and increasingly powerful open source models, the groundwork is there for breakout consumer apps to be built on someone else's model. In 2024, consumer AI apps will break out by delivering the best user experience around unique use cases, less on model performance alone. I'm particularly excited for consumer AI apps that figure out how to include shared experiences in a multiplayer mode, aggregate multiple models into a single interface, or build more focused solutions where workflow and process drive value. LLMs can be a source of differentiation. Today, they might provide a first mover advantage, but old-fashioned moats like network effects, high switching costs, scale, and brand are still what will likely win long-term.
All right, Alex, since last year's AI consumer boom, people are constantly asking this question of where moats will arise. I feel like every podcast we do on the topic, I have to ask that question, really, where is the differentiator? And a lot of people did talk about models, but you're saying that here UX really might be the moat. So why do you think that is? And also, what would you say to push back that maybe it might not be a moat given that design or UX feels like it can be copied easier than ever?
Sure. Over the history of technology paradigms, we often see technology progress and features first, and then a movement toward prioritizing design and experience. I expect user experience to contribute toward the building of moats. An awesome user experience can raise switching costs, strengthen network effects, and empower a brand. So maybe if you think about the last paradigm shift with mobile, if we were to rewind the clocks to 2010, people were taking photos with their new powerful phones. There were many photo filtering apps. I remember Hipstamatic. There were social media apps like Facebook, but there wasn't a a great experience that bridged the two. Instagram came along. It brought a slick interface. It was simple to take photos, edit, share photos. 10 years ago, I probably would have called that experience magical. My photos, my friends, they're all there. And suddenly, the likelihood of me switching to another application that doesn't have that information is lower. Why would I switch? The experience is so good that my friends and I, we use the application more, which in turn makes it better, strengthening the network effect. In AI, we're starting to see consumers build really exciting applications on top of this new technology. And I think they will leverage user experience, UX, to establish similar moats to their predecessors.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. But I think what some other people might ask is if everyone has access to all of the same models as they do become more accessible, how do new players really win in this environment?
It's important to point out that virtually everyone already has access to OpenAI or Anthropic, but there are real costs associated with using these models. So unless you're very well capitalized, it's difficult to run a free consumer app and afford the associated inference requirements. For this reason, many of the current AI consumer apps actually use a subscription or a transaction model to cover the costs. They are beholden to charging consumers. What's changing now is we expect the costs to access quality models, whether closed source or open source, to fall. Developers will be able to build more affordably for a broader set of consumers. It widens the top of funnels for these developers and presents a much broader opportunity. One framework to consider is that models are just a new primitive to build applications on top of, the same way storages or geolocation or payment rails are today. So if you believe in the commoditization of models, you could argue that models are similar to ACH rails in financial services. A fintech company has to distinguish itself with user experience and workflows around ACH, just like consumer apps will need to with these models.
Yeah. So in a way, you're saying a lot of people think that as this becomes more democratized, then the incumbents win because they have the financial resources and the existing users. But really, you're saying that we expect those economics to change. Maybe another piece of pushback from folks would be, how do you avoid, as folks say, just becoming a wrapper, right? And being displaced by certain model providers like OpenAI. I think a meme on the internet is every time OpenAI has a demo day, a bunch of startups get wiped out. And I don't know how factual that is, but how should builders really think about differentiating through model versus experience?
A classic investor question for many years has been, won't Amazon do this? Now it's quickly becoming, won't OpenAI do this? Entrepreneurs should focus on where they are uniquely best positioned. That's not specific to AI, but in general for company building. A recent historical parallel would be with cloud computing. Should entrepreneurs build their own infrastructure, or should they work with AWS, GCP, Azure? For most founders, they should work with a third party. If founders believe that one of their team's core strengths is their ability to build a truly differentiated model, that is a worthy endeavor. But there are few companies with that caliber of a research team today. It's true with Character AI, Ideogram. The list is short. For most companies, that's not going to be the case. But fortunately, building a defensible business does not have building a model as a prerequisite. There are other ways to make it difficult for your users to never want to leave your application. With regard to wrapper companies, most wrappers today are just providing a user interface to call a model API. You really need to add value on top of the underlying model. My colleague Jamie Sullivan would say it's the difference between being one of the hundreds of Compass apps in the App Store and Uber, using the geolocations of a smartphone to build an application that wasn't possible before, and for which underlying infrastructure is not a threat. In the AI context, I'm a fan of Perplexity, which is an AI-powered research assistant. It does work with third-party models, but it also offers a lot of seemingly small features that add up to a compelling user experience. Lower latency, providing sources, suggesting follow-up questions, giving multimodal responses. This results in a different search experience that users can't find with just using a model.
Yeah, I love that Uber example. I feel like it really cements the idea that a model is not the model is not the starting point for many, and you can actually add value on top of that. If folks are convinced by that and they're saying, okay, I don't have to create my own model, but I can create something of value with a differentiated user experience. You mentioned a couple ideas there, like multiplayer modes, interfaces that aggregate several models. Could you maybe elaborate on that? Like, what are you seeing as examples of really creative experiences, like the equivalent of Uber with geolocation that you've seen already, and also maybe some breakout use cases that you'd like to see in 2024?
I'm really excited about this. A first example, Quora's AI product, Poe, covers both multiplayer modes and model aggregation. So on the aggregation front, Poe brings together leading models like GPT, Claude, Bard for text, Stable Diffusion, DALL-E for image, and many others. And so if you want a central place to access the many models that are popping up each and every day, Poe is that web browser for AI. But then I can also use it with friends. So when I ask a question of GPT-4 on Poe, I can then share it with you, Steph, and you can continue the conversation in Poe. Looking ahead, these shared experiences are going to go from just being text to being multimodal. So imagine, Steph, you and I were having this conversation, but we're having it with an AI as well. And the AI is not just answering and listening to the text, but it's also listening to our speech. It's responding with their own AI voice. Poe actually recently added voice input. We're going to have more realistic AI friends. This should also translate to gaming. So you and I, we're playing Fortnite, we're playing Roblox, and all of a sudden, the non-player character, the NPC, who's listening in, watching our gameplay, starts having a unique, personalized conversation with my friends and me. I think that's just going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be so fun. And what's also going to be fun is we can only dream up a fraction of these experiences, right? And as all these builders go out and explore, I think we're going to see all types of things that we never could have imagined today. One other thing you've mentioned in your big idea is the powerful nature of open source models. And I'd just love to get your take on how key that will be to driving some of this change. How or to what extent do you really feel like open source may become the industry norm underpinning many of these products that are soon to come?
Clem, CEO at Hugging Face, a few days ago forecasted that in 2024, open source models are going to reach the level of the best closed source models. That may be aggressive for 2024, but they are headed towards parity. Several of the leading open source models like Llama and Mistral are already competitive with the closed source equivalents. It's early to call how the open closed source will split, but the better the open source models get, the more pressure it will put on the closed source models to lower costs. So what I am confident about is the cost to access models is going to go down and they're going to become more broadly accessible. And what that's going to translate to is more activity on top of open source. We're already seeing a lot of really fun applications. What I'm confident about is the cost to access models going down and they're being broadly accessible. There is so much early activity happening already on top of open source, which I mentioned earlier, can be much more affordable and allow for free and broad consumer adoption. Two fun image applications are EverArt and Can of Soup that productize fine-tuning to a specific style or people.
Yeah, like we said, I think there's going to be a lot on the horizon, and I feel like open source really democratizes that, and the more entrants, the better. As we really think about how the product layer may be increasingly delineated from the infrastructure layer, can you maybe think through some second order effects there? And that could be applying to existing or new companies that we're referring to.
So as the application and infrastructure layers are split, that'll make it a lot easier for new companies to be built. Founders can just build for applications and not have to worry as much about the underlying model as an input to their own company creation. This is akin to the mobile phone being introduced and making it so much easier for gaming companies to handle distribution via the App Store. If there's one less major feat to building a big company, it attracts that many more builders. Beyond that, much like Uber and Snapchat could not have been predicted when the iPhone came out, we don't know what Gen AI will bring, but we're excited. It's going to be some fun, sometimes weird, hopefully always impactful new behaviors. AI will save the world.
All right, I hope you enjoyed this big idea. We do have a lot more on the way, including a new age of maritime exploration that takes advantage of AI and computer vision, plus AI first games that never end, and whether voice first apps may finally be having their moment. By the way, if you want to see our full list of 40 plus big ideas today, you can head on over to a16z.com/big ideas 2024. It's time to build.